Alrighty. Hi everyone, my name is Kate Brimmer and I'm going to be presenting over the culture and archaeology of Egypt. So Egypt, or Misr, which is what the actual people in Egypt call their homeland. What is the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Egypt? So most people would say mummies or the Nile River or hairless cats, but there's actually a lot more to the rich culture of Egypt. Egypt is over 350,000 square miles and 65 million people live here. So most people live on or near the Nile River, a phenomenon among nature because it is the only consistent river through a desert. So the Nile is so important because it is the only continuous source of drinking water available to the Egyptians, and it is a big part of their daily lives. So most of the land in Egypt is barren without human civilization because the desert climate is too harsh. So the main languages in Egypt. The main language is going to be Arabic, but there are many different versions of Arabic. So the main one that Egyptians speak is Egyptian Arabic, but some also speak Saidi Arabic and just regular Arabic. So a small percentage of Egyptians speak other languages such as English and French, but this is mainly spoken by the upper class because they can afford to pay for classes for different languages, and it shows a sense of status. All right, so famous archaeology in Egypt. One of the biggest discoveries of all time was King Tut's tomb. His tomb was relatively small compared to others of his status, probably because he died so young, but was filled with many treasures. His tomb was filled with gold, jewels, food, and clothes. His coffin was made out of solid gold, and he was covered with the most iconic death masks to date, which is this picture on your right. Um, every student who looks at this death mask probably has a sense of what this is. You see this and you automatically think um, mummy or tomb or Egypt. So his walls were covered with hieroglyphics and pictures of his trip to the afterlife. And basically everything that is in the tombs are there to help the king or pharaoh that had died move through their difficult journey through the afterlife. So that's kind of why they put so many things in the tombs. And the few men who discovered his tomb died shortly after, which formed a curse within the media that King Tut has placed on the people who opened his tomb, and this kind of spooked the Americans for a while. So Rosetta Stone, which is not which has not always been a language teaching device. It actually first originated as this large stone, which basically reads the praises of kings who have ruled at the time. So it was written for King Ptolemy. I hope I said that right. But it was written in 196 BC and was found in 1799. It was written using 3 different languages, so Greek, Egyptian, Arabic, and hieroglyphics, which is why it is now the name for the different language teaching platform, because it had these 3 different languages on it. And this way, the king could read it because he spoke Greek. The public could read it because the main language was Egyptian Arabic. And so the priest could read it because he read in hieroglyphics. So archaeology continued. There's the pyramids, which started becoming tombs for the pharaohs. These were harder to make and harder to break into, which is why they started creating them, because of all the thieves that would come and steal the riches inside of tombs. So these pyramids would take years to make and would injure many people in the process, and whole cities would be dedicated to building these tombs, and people would dedicate their lives to building pyramids. jars of organs. So during the mummification process, the vital organs, such as the stomach, liver, and lungs, were taken out of the body and put into canopic jars, which stay in the tomb with them. So the only organ that was left in the body was the heart, and they believed that when the spirits awaken, they would need all of their vital organs to get them through to the afterlife. So that's why they were taken out but kept with the bodies at the time. And then this is a picture of the hieroglyphics, like we talked about before, which were placed in the tomb as well. They're used for religious practices and read by priests. All right, so next we're going to talk about religion in Egypt. So the main practice of religion in Egypt is Islam. So most of them, for the most part, are Muslim. They pray 5 times a day towards Mecca. Their holy day is Friday. Everything closes, and they're meant to stay connected to their faith. This makes their weekend in Egypt Thursday and Friday instead of Saturday and Sunday. I thought that was pretty interesting. A small percentage of Egyptians practice Egyptian Christianity. So, family values, which is very connected to religion actually. So family is the most important part of Egyptian culture. So kinship means everything to them, and you live close to your family for most of your life. You are expected to go to the same church as your family. You're expected to believe everything that your family believes in. And most businesses are passed down through the family, and family's reputation is immediately placed on you. So you are known for your family, and your reputation always comes from where you have come from and where your family has come from. Social class. So back in the pharaoh days and when there was a monarchy, it was all based on the pharaoh and what was needed. So farmers and slaves were at the bottom. Then it was craftsmen, scribes, and soldiers, nobles, priests, vizier, which are basically like appointed citizens from the pharaoh to make economic choices for the people. And then, of course, at the top is going to be the pharaoh. So then nowadays that they are a democracy, there's going to be 3 tiers. So there's upper, middle, and lower. Social class is very apparent based on clothing choices. So Egyptians dress up as much as their financial abilities will allow. This shows a state of class and having enough money to spend on frivolous things. One thing that's very important in Egypt is that it's very hard to move out of your class that you were born into. Because family is so important, many people will always judge you based off of your family. Political changes. So, Egypt was ran by a monarch until 1952, when the Egyptian Revolution turned the country into a democracy. So, the first 4 presidents were all elected because they came from a military background, as you see in other countries the minute that they are able to turn into democracies. In 2011, President Mubarak was overthrown because the public believed he was overusing his power and the people wanted more say. The military then took over until a new president, President Morsi, was elected, but they didn't see much change until the people demanded a new constitution, which was created, and they re-elected a new president, which you see here, named President Sisi, who is now still running the country. All right, so social changes. So in early Egypt, the biggest change basically was turning from a monarchy to a democracy. So as you see here in this picture in early Egypt, you see the pictures of the different social statuses being shown and how the pharaoh was basically in charge. The pharaohs were looked at as gods. The people respected them and basically worshipped them. Cities were built to create pyramids for these pharaohs, like I've talked about before. And everything was really based on the pharaoh and whatever he said went. So the creation of technology and media changed many things for the Egyptian people and let them see how others in the world were living. And this started the revolutions in realizing that they should be allowed more rights than they were given. So technology also helps people live easier. Cars and transportation allowed people to start developing communities farther away from the Nile River, and retrieving goods wasn't as difficult. So this is why you see here in this picture of Egypt in current time is a lot busier. There's a lot more building. There's a lot more going on because we now have so many more resources and ways to build. Egypt now also has a big movie presence, and it's almost called the Hollywood of their area, which is kind of cool. So overall, Egypt is a very interesting country with a rich history. The people have gone through many struggles, but still create such beautiful things and media to share with the world. So I hope you all enjoyed this presentation, and let me know if you have any questions. Thank you so much. Here's my bibliography.